Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. I am back today with another Meet one of my client episodes. And today I have an interview with somebody you do not want to miss this conversation. Shannon Synoracki, PA, out of Northern Virginia, the owner of Prejuvenation Esthetics. She is a leading skincare expert and advanced injector. She has trained alongside some of the nation's best and most respected educators in aesthetic medicine. And she is pursuing her passion as an injector and building an incredible business. She opened her business in 2021, and she talks about the story of sort of coming out of COVID and building a business, right? A scrappy entrepreneur with a family of 3 kids, 3 dogs, the husband, all of the things. And she talks so much about her values in this episode of trustworthy, inclusive, and creating an honest approach to care and relationships with her patients. And we talk a little bit about the nuances of the aesthetic industry and how there's sort of this performative nature on social media of expectations of who you should be or how you should show up for people or what you should look like or how much you need to be present or how you need to do things. I think her words were the popularity contest of aesthetics. And she talks about how she, through her story, has created a life for herself where she is continually focusing on revisiting what success means for her and how she is able to insource that confidence to put the blinders on and just build her business the way that she wants to build it, focusing on her patients, focusing on the things that are prioritization and really pillars of success in her life, including her family, spending time alone with herself, and growing slow and steady, but strong. And her theme around this year is really just about simplicity and getting back to the basics. And she talks about how the stage of growth is so much less about growing and building and getting bigger, but instead growing roots and strengthening foundation and getting better. And I think it's just such an incredible message. And I think a movement, the beginning of a real movement in our industry and in society around how we as women, while domestic roles are changing, while, there's so many shifts happening in our industry, we still can, and we have permission to show up and do it our own way. And there isn't a right way to build a business. It's a lot of trial and error. And the only way to do it is to do it in a way that's fulfilling and in alignment with your own scoreboard and your own version of success. So I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. I certainly did. And if you want to get to know more women like this, like Shannon, this is what we do inside of our Pop Leadership Academy. We're about putting our head down and building life-first businesses that provide lucrative fulfillment in, our financial area, but also in health, wealth, impact, and freedom. So without further ado, please enjoy this interview with the one and only Shannon Synoracki, PA. Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Welcome everybody back to another episode of Meet the Academy member for the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm really proud of all of you and who we have as a collaborative community in this group of high growth women. And more importantly, I think something we don't talk a lot about that I think is so special about us here is something that Shannon brought to my attention and became sort of one of the themes of conversation we had during our VIP day together. And that was so much about the complexities of building a business in aesthetics and also perceptions of what success should look like and who you should be and how your business should grow. And, I think think it's hard just societally, right? Like for us to stay focused and, I think aligned with our core center and our purpose when there's so much noise and so much pressure, especially as, most of us as service providers started our business to do that, to provide a service, to be somebody who gave into others, who poured into other people, who wanted to make an impact. And with that comes such tremendous responsibility on the business side, because in order to do that, we have to also be really good custodians of our business. And that means we have to be looking at numbers, and we have to make sure that we're hitting, all the metrics, and we're doing all the things right. And for most of us, like, we didn't know, none of us did. And I have a business degree. I didn't know how to build a business until I was building it. And so we're all learning as we go. And so Shannon and I had just some really powerful conversations about the industry and about that side of it. And I think what is so special about the way her approach and what she'll share with us today is that you can build a very successful business by the terms of what success means for you. And for many people, it's not just how big can I go and how big can this thing get, but going back to the basics, I think was the words that we use. So I'm so excited to have you here, Shannon. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, and also being open to this spontaneous, who knows what questions we're going to get, experience of live podcasting. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Yay. So for the podcast, I will have recorded a bio and a little bit of information about Shannon, but just to share with everybody here before Shannon, I have you talk a little bit more about you as a person. Shannon is the founder of Prejuvenation Esthetics. She is a PA and based out of, is it Northern Virginia, correct? Did I get that location right? Yeah. From a small town in Pennsylvania. I got to hear how you met your husband in middle school. So just homegrown girl building an empire now. So Shannon, tell us, I'd love for you to start just a little bit about you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I have been a PA now for about 10 years, and I have my middle school sweetheart, I guess you would say. I'm married to him, and we have 3 beautiful children and 3 beautiful golden retrievers. So if anyone knows anything about me, I am obsessed with that life. What else? I opened my own practice in, I guess, 4 years ago, and I started off in a 1-room suite, and have really grown from there over the course of the last 4 years.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you opened in 2021. I always say there's like the COVID babies. Like it was like, I just sat in my backyard for a year and thought about, let's start a business. So tell me, what made you want to become an entrepreneur?
I never had the intention of getting into aesthetic medicine or entrepreneurship, at least right when I got out of PA school. But I landed in my first job as a PA, in plastic surgery PA, and really got thrown into the industry and some of the complexities that are present within some of, dealing with some plastic surgeons or some providers and dynamics. So once I left there, I did work in dermatology and other aesthetic practices as well. And I just always felt like we were doing a disservice to our patients, or that they weren't really being presented with the truth. They were just treated as a number. They were being sold things that they didn't need to be sold, or, they're being told that they needed services they didn't need. They weren't being told no. And just seeing the dynamics behind the scenes really frustrated me, because I just felt like we should be doing better for our patients. And I was just so determined to break out on my own and just do things the right way and for the right reasons. And so once I decided that, I never looked back.
What's it been like? What's been the biggest challenge for you along the way so far?
I think the biggest challenge, just from a scaling standpoint, was it was very, I don't want to say it was simple when it was just myself in a one room, but there wasn't as much responsibility, I guess I'll say. But scaling into a bigger practice, suddenly being in charge and leading a team, which I've never had to do before, trying to bring on a whole new provider, and offer new services that weren't offered at the previous location. There's just been a lot of growing pains. And with that, taking on the responsibility of now having to meet, the overhead and all the different complexities of team dynamics, it really has challenged me to, I guess, dive into the business and leadership in a completely different way than what I originally set out for, when I was just a solo provider.
Yeah, we were talking about how the business somehow becomes just this vessel for you to evolve as a human. And it truly is like the biggest mirror in personal development. What have you learned about yourself along the past 4 years?
This has been the biggest eye opener of pretty much anything, any insecurity that you have internally or anything that you might be conflicted with. Owning a business and then growing a team will bring that directly to the forefront. And if you don't really, take time to dive in internally and go a little bit deeper into, what that might be rooted from, then it could just lead to a lot of, it could really take the enjoyment out of the business. But it is a huge personal growth journey.
Yes, for sure. And speaking of your journey, something I always tell you is you have an old soul, very much wise beyond your years. So we have kids, our oldest are the same age, a few years older than you. But you really are I think you've been through a lot in life. And I'm curious if you could share a little bit about your personal story and how that's impacted your journey of really your life and entrepreneurship and your mission and how you want to live that out through your business.
Yeah. I was forced to grow up at a very young age. Unfortunately, I lost my parents when I was 5 years old. And so through that, it changed not only the whole trajectory of my life, but then I've had to, deal with all the aftermath of that and having to grow up and be so responsible at such a young age. But I do feel like that has shaped me into who I am, and what I'm capable of enduring. But with that, it also has changed my perspective on life and what is important and what I value. We spoke at our one-on-one that to me, it was never for the money or finances when I opened up a business. It was truly for the reasons of wanting to be an honest and authentic provider and do things the right way. While I really have endured a lot in life, I really feel like what has shaped me, or what it has shaped me to be is I'm learning to really dig into that or dive into that.
Mm-hmm. So you talk about this has shaped you and who you are. Who are you?
Who am I? It's a deep question. I would say
Oprah, when I asked it, by the way, I was like, oh,
no,
God.
I love it.
I'm glad someone asked me that one.
I would say I am, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a provider. I am a businesswoman. I'm someone who values the simple things in life. I'm authentic. I really lead my life with intention, and I'm really proud of myself for that.
It's evident, all of those things. And we talk about success, and it's so it's something I think we together wanted to kind of bring to this conversation, which is that it's strange how we are focused as we're growing and building our business on surface level. I mean, so intently on growth, so intently on more, so intently on the next thing. And we're ambitious and we're built and driven that way. But when we ask ourselves, like, what does success mean to you? And I asked you who you are, it was really none of that, right? And so we talked about alignment and authenticity. What do you feel like in our industry, in terms of authenticity, in terms of you living in that kind of alignment where you get to build a business that satisfies those true pillars of success for you, what do you think is missing in our industry?
I think being authentic and how providers or practices might present themselves to the public, we're missing that. I think our industry in general has turned into a popularity contest. And I think we lose sight of why we got into aesthetics in the first place and how truly impactful it can be to make that difference in someone's life, like to restore their confidence. And the stories that, we hear from our patients and the good that we do, to then, come across social media and see how much it really has turned into a popularity contest and a flashy, business. And it makes you question, is this what it's about? Is it about the money? Is it about, trying to get the most followers or be popular? So it's something that I think we should just revisit why we got into it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think you're alone in feeling like that. I think that we are being fed a lot of messages that feel conflicting to us. And it's funny because I think I was on a podcast yesterday and I was asked the question, like, it was specifically about authenticity and how do you be authentic? And I think that the problem is there's so much noise that I think many of us don't really know what that is. Like, who are we? What are we, like, on a deep level? Like, what's important to us and what are we here to build? And it's hard. It's very easy to lose sight of that and lose focus when we're trying to listen to advice from everybody else or that book or that tactic or that, and I know there's women I can see faces in here who I've had conversations with about, like, you can do it all, but you got to slow down and do it the right way and not all at the right time. And that for some reason, then that message you get when you're not starting a training academy or a conference or the next thing is like, am I even doing it right? Am I a success? And so I think that the word popularity contest in it, I know it just feels very political and very incestual, honestly, in many ways when, some of the stuff, we've talked about, you look at same speakers on stages or you look at the same authority of, an industry has big influence and impact on that. Like, how do you center yourself? How do you stay focused? I know you were saying, like, you've kind of retreated from being on social media a bit because of that. So how do you keep your eye on the prize?
I didn't there for a while. I think I was someone that bought into the hype and was, felt very innocent and wanted to, grow my following and really get, high up in the industry. But then it is hard to not see yourself compared to other people and what they're doing. And so it started to make me feel, like, oh, my business isn't as big. Oh, I'm still in this one room suite 2 years later. Like, I didn't think I would be here. And you start to devalue your hard work and, like, the dedication that goes into running a successful business. And so I did retreat. I had to get off social media. I'm someone that used to post all the time. I had a pretty big TikTok following there for a while, and I just completely stopped it. I lost all motivation or desire to put my face out there and create content in an industry that I felt was very fake. At that point, I was really just trying to go back to, okay, what is the most important thing right now? And right now it is building my team and building the infrastructure of my business, making sure I'm doing things correctly and not worried about the latest trend, the newest product or device, and just trying to, stay true to what my, original goal was when opening the business, and just, again, try to stay off social media.
Where do you find the confidence to do that? Because let me kind of give some context. I think you have to have a certain sense of worthiness to say, I don't need that. I'm not playing that game. I'm playing this game. Where does that come from?
It's a ongoing battle, I would say. But I think it's just really discovering and asking yourself what your worth is. And that has led me to, I guess, invest more in myself, to work on confidence, and also just hearing the stories from my patients and the feedback that we get from them. That's what fuels me and, ignites my confidence. I'm doing just fine, whether, it's for everyone to see or, just for my patients or family to see.
There's a question in the chat that says, well, how do you stay off social media when you're trying to grow your practice?
I know. It's a double-edged sword. It's difficult. When I was posting more, I was really just posting videos, mainly on TikTok, and would get off of it and not look at, other people's feeds. Not to say that I don't get on social media at all. I just have chosen who I am, who and what kind of content I'm following, so that comparison isn't there. Mm-hmm. But it is important to grow your business on social media. There's definitely a need for that. I hired someone to help me with that. And so they're responsible for posting a lot of the content.
Yeah. I'm kind of circling back to a conversation you and I have had before about comparison. And I happen to think that in itself is probably one of the most restrictive and suffocating things that can stagnate an entrepreneur at any stage. Certainly in the beginning, it's hard because you're looking for inspiration and for direction on how to grow the right way. And so you almost do see, it's like, I've asked myself this before, would you want to grow up in the days when everything was the yellow, what was the yellow phone book or whatever,
Yellow pages.
Yeah, the yellow pages. Or would you want it, there's such tremendous advantage for us. Like what we were just talking about earlier about you can follow a business mentor and get tips on how to apply strategies in your practice and things like that. But then at the same time, the cost of also losing yourself because you're so busy looking at what other people are doing that it's this natural comparison that happens. And I hear it's incessant. What are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? And, you go and chat with somebody and it's you want to follow every single thing that they did to create this sort of success. But there's a whole story behind that. There's a whole human behind that. And there's a whole mindset that they had and things that they had to endure and overcome. And I think that part is never shown on social media. And so it's very misleading, right? And so I think, it's how do you use comparison as, to avoid it as much as possible, but in a way to shift your mind to say, no, actually, I feel so confident in who I am because I am living out my own destiny and my own dream. It's hard. It's really hard to do.
Yeah, I think you have to be comfortable with what your version of success looks like and understanding that that's not going to be the same as everyone else's. And we don't get the full picture on social media. I don't post about what happened to me growing up on social media. So people would never know why I am the way that I am. I think it's very easy to judge a book by its cover. And, while it's hard to not compare yourself. You can either use it as motivation and reassurance and really help that stay rooted in what success looks like to you.
Hi, leader. Shannon with Team KLC here. If you're the one everyone turns to, but you're fighting battles no one sees, this is for you. You're hitting 7 figures, your practice is thriving, but inside, you're drowning. Your driven, scrappy team trusts your vision completely, and that weight of responsibility feels heavier every day. Clients expect perfection while you're questioning every decision, and that voice in your head keeps whispering, what if I'm not cut out for this level? Here's what no one tells you about scaling a high-end aesthetics or wellness practice. If you don't transform how you lead, your business will plateau while your stress skyrockets. You didn't build $1 million practice to feel like you're faking it every single day. That's exactly why we created Spark, 5 days of intensive recalibration for practice owners who refuse to lead from a place of imposter syndrome anymore. This isn't about adding more to your already overflowing plate. This is about becoming the leader your success demands you to be, the one who makes decisions with unshakable confidence, even when the market shifts, your competition gets aggressive, and your team needs you to be their rock. Spark starts August 18th, and honestly, if you're still questioning whether you belong at the top of this industry, you can't afford to miss this. Register now at klcconsultants.com/spark and get ready for your leadership transformation. Because your practice deserves a leader who shows up as powerfully as the results you deliver.
There's a question in the chat. What mindset shift have you experienced or learned as a CEO that has helped you the most in your business and with team?
It's okay to not know what you're doing, I think, and just acceptance of that. I remember preparing for my first employee and having a call with you, Kaylee, I think our first video call, and I was just like sobbing because I didn't have everything put together. And you're just like, well, why would you have everything put together? But, no one ever told me that it's okay to not have it all together. You just assume like we're perfectionists, went to PA school, I got good grades, I've always been an overachiever. So it never occurred to me that it's okay to not know what you're doing sometimes and just figure it out as you go.
Yeah. We talked about, I especially see the PAs, because I've, worked with different specialties. So this is such like a generalization, but I was telling Shannon that my PA girls are like very scientific, very analytical, very black and white, very much like they had to have perfect grades, everything. It's just, there's a structure to everything. And it's like, everything's completed. The T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. And then the NPs and like the nursing school sort of track, like you're a little bit more kind of street smarts, reactive. Like there's a little bit more leniency, I think, that they give themselves. This is just my opinion. And so we were talking about how your business, while there's so much logic in general, it's really more an art form. And you have to like be okay with expressing that creative, exploratory, like I'm learning, and failing and then recovering, and it feels very different for you, right? Because that's not how you're programmed.
Exactly. I shared how competitive it was to even get in a PA program. And that starts the whole comparison, because from day one, pre-PA track, you're comparing all the grades. Everyone's talking about, their previous experience, how many hours they have. And you all know at the end of the day, it's a couple hundred people applying for a 30-seat program. So that's where I think it stems from, that, perfectionist mentality. But I totally lost track of the question. Sorry.
No, I think we're just chatting. I was just saying, like, you were talking about building a business and how you've learned to be okay with like not having to have all the answers, right? So like the example was getting prepared to like hire your first employee. And I think I've had this conversation with many of the women in this room too. It's like, no, you got to just kind of go you get together what you can, but you're not going to have all the answers. Like growing a successful business is very much a game of failing and doing it wrong. Because you honestly don't know what right looks like, or what alignment feels like, or what, you grow this sense of self-worth and confidence by just being like, I'm not putting up with that anymore, honestly. Like and then you realize like, okay, I'm going to do it this way. This is what works for me better. And so you have to have so much grace for yourself that it may not work out. Like, of course we always hope, but there's a possibility that this is a lesson in learning and growth for me, and not necessarily like this magic bullet. So, and that's why it's testing us so much,
Yeah. And I would also say, I have had to learn to listen to my body, as someone who's just pushed through everything. And my body is now telling me when something feels off, the tension in my jaw, my hips are, tight, my stomach is in knots. Like, that's your body telling you that something's off. And so I've had to really try to dig down, okay, like, what about this is not right? And I would just say, really trust your instinct, because it's almost always right, especially within the business. That could be team members. It could be a program that doesn't feel right to you, or a service that you're offering that you don't like. Your body will let you know when something's off.
So practically speaking, what do you do when something is off? So now you feel it in your body. You're like, something's off. Like, what? Now what?
I have to have quiet time to really just sit and think, or to not think, and just, take it easy. I think I have been so trained to just do more, lean in and work harder and figure it out. But that is the opposite of what is going to benefit me, because it's going to lead to exhaustion and burnout. And so I've had to kind of learn that the hard way. But just taking more time off, taking a step back, and just, being at peace with the process.
Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty counterintuitive that we got to a point where it was the grind, it was the hard work, it was the competition, it was all of those things that created the level of success that we have. And then all of a sudden, it's like, you got to go sit on a mountain and meditate. It's like, what is going on here? It feels very counterintuitive. And it becomes like about how good are you about preserving your energy and building, I think, boundaries, right? Like building and systems to support you so that you can show up as your most energetic self into the things that are going to drive and pull the levers in your business, because burnout's a real thing. And we've all, if you've owned a business, you've been there on the verge at least, or somewhere close to that, where you have those days and you're like, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was February. I was in a meeting with Krista, and I'm like, I'm just so tired. I'm waking up at 3:30 in the morning every day. And, I didn't have anything else to do. So I would start working. And she was like, I think you're burnout. So, yeah, that started my process of having to really reevaluate my surroundings and like, what is going on?
Yeah. So how would you, when we talked a lot about confidence and finding that, and, I think looking at like, how do you find confidence when you're throwing yourself into an arena where you're playing a game you just don't know? Like, how do you show up? How would you mentor somebody if they asked you, like, where do I get that confidence from?
That's something I'm working on every day. So it's not like it just comes to you one day, but I think as long as you're staying true to yourself, you're not comparing yourself to other people's, where they're at and what their version of success looks like. And just really making sure that things feel in alignment with what, your whole mission, with your business, with your patients, with your team, and just think bigger picture. And I think everything else will kind of fall into place, and just really being okay with it's the journey, not the destination. Because if we just go and we're just trying to hit this milestone, this million, or, get this many new patients, you reach that, and then what? Like, at the end of the day, what fuels you? What makes you feel good? Just I think just getting back into alignment can help you feel a little more confident.
You used the words, and we talked about this when I kind of opened up this podcast, but we talked about your language was getting back to the basics was sort of like a theme for you. Tell me more about what that means.
I'm just trying to simplify everything and the business. And, I think we go into building these systems or bringing on these devices or trying to grow, and we have really good intention behind it. But then we get so lost in the process that we lose sight of the whole, what are the simple things that are going to drive my business, drive success, make me feel like the best version of myself. Because when we start to overcomplicate things, it can confuse not only yourself, but your team and your patients. And I don't know, I'm just really trying to simplify as much as possible.
What are some of those things for you?
Big one would be the patient journey and really just honing in on our MVBs and, what are the top services that they're coming in for? What are their top concerns, and really targeting them and the client experience rather than trying to get a ton of new patients in or, just let anyone walk through the doors. I'm really trying to make sure that what we're offering is catering to our top clients.
That's awesome. And I think that will go a long way. And I think goes back to like, it's focusing and spending time and energy on pulling the right levers, right? That are good. That's going to impact everything else. What is it like, just a personal question, 3 kids, 3 dogs, you're young. I think you said you had kids at 18.
Yes. I had my son on my 18th birthday.
Oh, on your 18th. So you have the same birthday.
We do. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Happy birthday. Yeah. So what is it like? Like, how do you build this business? And I mean, how do you do it all?
You don't. You don't do it all. Or you will not show up in the way you want to be as a mother or a wife, or just even for yourself. I was someone that was doing it all. I don't live near family, and it's just my husband and I running kids all over, kids in travel sports. My husband has a full-time job also. And I reached a point where I was like, I'm going to lose my mind if we continue to live this way. Like, it's not sustainable. And then I'm also not giving my best abilities to my business, and vice versa. I'm coming home drained, exhausted. I can't show up for, my children. So I actually hired a house manager, and that was all inspiration of hearing some of the other providers at Alt and just how much help they have. And I think when you stop and realize how much you do, not even just in the business, but at home, and, mom brain is a thing. We have so many things that we are trying to tackle. Your brain never turns off. So just having even just that one person support me and my family has been a game changer. Truly.
I think just to kind of dig into that a little bit, like why did you wait on that? Like what?
Yeah.
It's
so I went to Alt 2 years in a row, came home first year, was all about it. And I felt like I had to convince my husband that we needed help. And, I adore him and he's amazing to our family. And his response was, well, I'll just do it. I'll just take it on. And I was like, well, that makes no sense. So you're working full time. You're already cooking and helping and doing all the things. And now all of my stress, anything I'm left over with doing, you're just going to do even more. That makes no sense to me. It took 2 years of kind of convincing, I guess 1 full year of really convincing that no, this is necessary. And I just went and posted a job on Indeed without him knowing and hired her. So at the end of the day, that's how it happened.
Lesson in life, ladies, better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
Yeah.
Get the needs met. I mean, happy wife, happy life, let's be honest. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting to me. I asked that because I have found working with women, and many of you know when I started my consulting business, I had almost a full book of male clients. Like I would have sprinkle in a woman here and there, but like all the dudes. And I like really the inspiration of this academy and helping women in our industry would stem from that, because I was on a walk with my husband one night and I was like, I don't get it. Like women don't invest in themselves in the same way. Like men just cut the checks and it's like no problem. And he was like, well, isn't that an issue? Maybe that's a problem you should solve. And I was like, you're right. I'm going to solve that problem. Let's go. But even for myself, right? Like we're so quick, even on the business side, to make, okay, I know I need support here. I'm going to hire here. And then it's like we step in the door at home and it's like, we like forget that we're like, capable, like where it's just like, oh no, I'll handle it, I'll do it, I got it. Like we literally shapeshift and like change into somebody who's completely not level-headed, resourceful, thinking about how to resource ourselves with the things that we need. It's like we don't give ourselves permission to do that at home, but we do in our business. Why?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's how we're raised or what, you said something in alt pet. I was just like, oh my gosh. I think you said, how many of your family members or mothers or grandparents ran $1 million businesses? And
yeah,
and no hands went up at all. So we have to think about it in that mindset, because that's just the life that we are living now. That's the life we chose when we signed up to open a business. And I mean, if someone's able to do it all and not have that burnout, then more power to them. But I just know that I could not invest as much time and energy into the things that energize me and help the business if I didn't have the help that we have.
Yeah. And I think to the reality is that the domestic roles are shifting in households. And it's starting with us. We are trailblazers. Like we are actually doing this thing right now. Like someday our great grandchildren are going to look at us and be like, whoa, they didn't have a house. She didn't have a house manager until like 4 years in business. Like that's like that kind of stuff is just going to be, it'll be fascinating and interesting to see how the world evolves. But, certainly things are moving faster. And, one of the conversations that we've had is just like, how do you slow down when the world is just speeding by? And it's like that struggle with how do I keep up if I'm not constantly innovating or changing or doing, the next thing? How do I stay relevant? And, I think like the world, though, we all want human connection more than ever when there's just so much fakeness and what's real. Like literally we'll look at pictures. Shannon will send me, she'll be like, is that an AI photo? I'm like, I think so. Like we're trying to like discern what's what. And so, going back to like that this whole like, for our industry, and certainly you're not the first woman who said to me, although you did express that, like that was a gap and frustration that you had, that, you felt like this industry popularity contest or this like, they're just fakeness everywhere. And I hear it all over the place. How do we collectively, and I'm curious too, I'd love just some feedback from the Academy too, because I think this is an important question. How do we shift this programmed narrative of success so that we drive a different message for women in our industry?
Yeah, I would love to hear from the Academy as well. I think with even just the rise in like AI and chat boxes and, we're losing the human connection there, and just trying to show it more authentically for our patients and for our team, I think is number one. But I'm curious what other feedback anyone else has or recommendations.
Yeah, I'm seeing like big eyes like in the boxes. They're like, oh, that's a big question. Like what are you talking about? I'm curious, like Academy wise, you can even just put a yes in the chat. Like, do you guys feel the same frustrations? And okay, we're getting all the yeses. Yeah. And so I think I feel like I'm so anti-establishment already, and people are tired of my contrarian, but like, it does. I think I'm curious, Krista has a big solution. I think it does come back to, and why I brought Sahil Bloom to alt, right? Of all the people, he was not cheap. And I had to ask a lot and hard, but because I feel like it is an important conversation for us to have to really sit back and think about what we're doing here. And I'll constantly say to you guys, like, okay, when you're sitting in your rocking chair and you're 80 years old, what are you really going to be proud of? What are you really going to reflect on? What are you going to say? Yeah, I did that. It's probably not going to be how much money you made that year. I'm just quite honestly. And the money is, don't get me wrong, I love money. And it is a vehicle and vessel, and it is a lifeline for us to be able to live this authentic life. But I don't know if any of you read the book Die with Zero. I read that like maybe 2 years ago, and it just shifted my whole mindset about like, why are we waiting to love our life? Why are we waiting until we have to earn and get to a point, and then I'll be successful? And a lot of his points were around like the standard of retirement age. Like, you're going to retire at 65, and then like your best years of when your body is alive and active and you have energy are gone. Yet you're going to have more money than you know what to do with. Hopefully you'll have more money than you will now, right? You're going to accumulate wealth. And so what are we waiting for? And so I think that as much as we complain and like tell everybody don't start a business, like it's really freaking hard. It is still the American dream. And with that, I think that we have to find a practice and remind each other and, accountability to refocusing back inward, and so like when you talked about back to the basics, to me, that was that. It was like, no, what are my basic needs? Why am I doing this? What does success? What defines success? Because when I asked you about your perfect day, it was a pretty surprising answer, but a lot of quiet time, a lot of alone time, a lot of just reconnecting with yourself. Right. And I think a lot of us crave that. And so why can't we give that to ourselves? Like, who do we need permission from? Yeah,
exactly. And I think, yes, as long as you're staying true to yourself and looking at the bigger picture, and, as much as I love my business, I also don't want to look back in 10, 15 years and my kids are essentially grown up and all they think about is mom being a stress ball, for the last 10 to 15 years. So I think just trying to slow down. We don't always have to go so fast, and more is not always better. Sometimes it's really just, enjoying what you have. And when you and I were in our one-on-one, and I was describing like what my goal is or what I want in the future, and you're like, well, don't you already have all that now? And I'm like, actually, yeah, I do. So you lose sight of all of like what is important. And so that was a big shift for me. I'm like, oh, I already do have all this currently. So what am I waiting for to enjoy it?
Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people think that and feel like they shouldn't, and it's scary to think that, wow, I've worked so hard and pushed myself with this level of energy and intent for so long that it would feel like giving up, or, like I'm going to lose something of myself to be able to enjoy it. And I think that you've given a lot of people that permission today. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just important to surround yourself with like-minded people and don't pay attention to the noise.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Any other questions I didn't ask that I should ask, or that you want to share? Anything you want to share with the Academy here?
Oh, and I don't know anything I want to share. I'd have to think about that. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of comments of thank you for sharing and sharing your story. And I just believe like you're so inspiring, and it's been such a joy getting to know you, and also just watching how you have navigated building this business over the past few years. And I'm so excited because we talked about this year for you, growth is not up, it's down, it's planting roots. And I can't even imagine what's to come, for you in terms of your fulfillment in life and what that's going to create in terms of impact as you grow your business. So congratulations on that. And yeah, really proud of you. Well, thank you for all of your wisdom and for being a part of the Fierce Factor podcast today. How can people go follow? Well, do you want social media? How about if someone has a message, like if this touched you and you're like, I needed to hear that. How about, would you like a DM? Like, can someone say, hey, I heard you on podcast and, okay.
Yes, I might take a few days to respond. But I will, that's the best way to reach me. Yeah.
Yeah. Or DM me and I'll screenshot. But so what's your Instagram handle?
Injector_Shannon.
Okay. Injector_Shannon. All right, Shannon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaylee.
Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight, because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.